Hey, I'm Burnett Sherman, and I am coming to you today to talk about my upcoming book, The Story of Ervin James, and why I've written it, and just give you a little bit of information about that, as well as getting your support to bring this important story to life. It's so critical, I believe, in these times to have the story told. So, the story of Ervin James, the concept was actually born last year at a family reunion in South Carolina. We went to Florence, and I learned a lot about my history that I didn't even know. And how many of us, especially as Black Americans, can say that there's so much about our history that we don't even know? And not necessarily putting blame on, you know, on anything in particular, but it's so much that it's hard for one person to know so much of their history. But I went to the land, which is now, the historic Jamestown land property. And we went to the cemetery and we drove around and we saw a few of the homes that remain from when this was a thriving community for freed Blacks. And I just thought, wow, wow, this is real. I'm on this land that was owned by former slaves who did the seemingly impossible and bought land right after slavery. And so at first, I wasn't sure if and how I could tell the story, but it was in the back of my mind. It was on my heart. And a year later, almost, I went to the family reunion in July, I believe, of 2019. Actually, it was August of 2019. And so a year later, August of this year, something in my spirit said, you need to tell the story. You need to tell the story. And if anyone knows me, they know that I very much connect with spirit. I have a very strong connection with spirit. And I listened to that still voice within that said, tell the story. It's important. It's important right now. And so I started writing. At first, I wanted to just write a play. And I shouldn't say just, but I wanted to write a play or a script. But what I heard is, no, you have to first write the book. And so I started writing, telling the story of my great, great, great grandfather and his journey. And of course, because we don't have written stories and history from then, it had to be inspired. And I'll call it that. It was inspired. So it was inspired by his story of being able to buy this land for his posterity and leaving a legacy. And so it is a historical fiction inspired by a true story, the story of Ervin James. It's coming out in February, and I am so excited because it is Black History Month and honoring a man who did something for the Black community in Florence, South Carolina, in the 1870s. Just think about that, in the 1870s. So I hope that you will support the story being told, the story being brought to life. And you can do that in a couple of ways. Right now, I do have a fundraising campaign happening on fundly.com, and it is the story of Ervin James. I will be including that link with this video. I also would love your support when the story comes out. When this book is released, let's make it viral. Let's put the story at the top, right? Let it be one of the number one Amazon bestsellers and let the world know that these stories matter. These stories are not just Black stories or African American history stories. These are American stories, American voices being brought to light. Very untold stories of invisible people. Let me repeat that. This is one of the untold stories of the invisible people who made this land what it is, who made this land as prosperous as it is. And it's time that those stories are told and brought to light. Those lives are honored. And we know that more happened than what we were traditionally taught. It's stories like Ervin James that matter. It's stories that we haven't heard before, that are held in families, that are held in those table talk discussions that, live there and don't go any further, but they need to now. It's a time for those voices to be heard. So I wrote this story in a voice and a dialect that I wanted to make sure it felt more authentic. So it's not written in perfect English. It doesn't follow all the rules. Because back then, we weren't following all the rules. We weren't speaking proper English. We weren't speaking the Queen's English. We were speaking an English that we owned, that was forced upon enslaved Africans and infused with their dialect. You think about the ingenuity and the genius and the intelligence required to learn a foreign tongue and communicate it. I honor that. I honor that. And I hope that you will honor that too. And I hope that you will support this book either as a supporter through the fundraising campaign or by purchasing the book when it comes out in February. Make sure you join my mailing list so you don't miss it, so that you can support the story reaching #1 status. Can we say yes? It's time. It's time for our voices to be heard because it's not just about us. It's not just about us. It's about what we're leaving behind for the next generation. It's about reaching back and healing some of that back from the past. It's about being present today and saying, this happened, we did this. Let's take some pride in that, reflect on it, receive it, and then we can keep moving forward. And I want to reiterate what I said before. It's not just Black history. It's not just African American history. It's not just the slave narrative. It's American history. It's the history of how this country prospered. It's a history of how this country became what it is. Without the free labor of what our Black American ancestors, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be the nation of power that we are. So I hope that you will support this book. I hope you will support the story of Ervin James because he stands for all of us. It's a story of resilience. It's a story of strength and power and hope. It's a story of our ancestors and our children's children's children. It's our story, all of our stories. Thank you for your support. Anything that you were able to offer by way of the fundraising campaign, I appreciate. But most importantly, spread the word. Let people know the story is being created. Let people know the story is coming. And when it is released, the target date is February 1st for the ebook. When it is released, be the first. Be the first to purchase it, download it, read it, and review it so that other people can get the story too. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time watching this video, and I appreciate your support of the story of Ervin James. Bless you. Let's go in peace and let's go in prosperity. Again, I am Burnett Sherman, BurnettSherman.com, BernettSherman.com.